Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our deep dive for Saturday, February 28th, 2026. We're wrapping up a February that honestly I think we're going to be talking about this month for a long, long time.
Oh, absolutely. It's been sensory overload, really.
Yeah, it has. Usually when we sit down on a Saturday morning to look at the slate, we're trying to hunt for a narrative. Like maybe there was one good game or guy got hot. But looking at what happened last night on the 27th, the league just it didn't give us a narrative. It gave us a full-blown crisis, a comedy of errors, and just a straight-up history lesson all in one night.
That is the exact right way to frame it.
Yeah.
You look at the scores this morning and you see overtime thrillers between number one seeds and legitimate challengers. You see the Boston Celtics putting up numbers that genuinely look like typos. I mean, I had to refresh my app 3 times to make sure that 148 wasn't a glitch. And then, of course, we have to talk about the situation in Detroit.
The horn incident.
The horn incident. It's one of those things where you're going to remember where you were when it happened, but for completely ridiculous reasons.
Right. So here is the roadmap for you guys today. We're breaking down that Central Division clash in Detroit that turned into just a surrealist nightmare. We're looking at Oklahoma City reasserting their dominance and what the return of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander actually does to their clutch time offense. We're diving into the Celtics doing things offensively that frankly should be illegal. And then later on, we are going deep on this wild news out of Los Angeles about the Lakers pivoting their entire front office to mimic a baseball team.
Which, by the way, is the most significant big-picture story of the month. It sounds like corporate buzzwords, but if you really peel it back, it might actually be the desperate move of a franchise that realizes it's just completely stuck in the mud.
Yeah, we're going to get into the Dodgers model and whether algorithms can actually play defense. But we got to start in the Motor City. Detroit Pistons. Cleveland Cavaliers. This was the marquee matchup of the night. Number 1 seed versus the number 4 seed, potential Eastern Conference Finals preview.
And look, for the first 2.5 quarters, it totally lived up to the billing. You had the physicality, you had the star power.
Yeah.
But we cannot talk about the basketball without talking about the 18-minute hole right in the middle of the game.
Right. Let's set the scene for you if you missed this or maybe you went to bed early. Third quarter, very intense game. And then the arena horn at Little Caesars Arena, the one that blares for substitutions, it just gets stuck.
And it wasn't a short beep. It was a continuous, deafening drone.
Yeah.
And they literally could not turn it off. The officials stopped the game. The players are just standing around looking at the ceiling. Fans have their hands over their ears. And this goes on and on. 18 solid minutes of delay.
So I want to ask you about this from a physiological standpoint, because I think people listening might think, okay, they're pro athletes, they get a break, it's not a big deal. But 18 minutes is the length of a halftime break. It is an eternity when you're in the middle of high-intensity cardio. What is actually happening to a player's body in that situation?
It's a total nightmare. It's actually worse than halftime because at halftime, you know exactly how long you have. You have a very specific routine. You change your jersey, you hydrate, you get shots up at this specific time mark. In an unplanned delay like last night, you're in limbo. You don't know if the game is starting in 30 seconds or 30 minutes.
Right.
So you can't really cool down, but your body naturally starts to flush the adrenaline out of your system. Your heart rate drops. The sweat starts to dry and get cold on your skin. Your muscles, specifically we're talking about the hamstrings and the calf, they just start to tighten up.
It's essentially the cold start problem.
Exactly. And mentally, it's even harder.
Yeah.
You have to go from kill mode to total boredom to just frustration. You start thinking about your flight or dinner or how incredibly annoying that horn is. Re-engaging into a playoff intensity mindset after standing around for almost 20 minutes is one of the hardest things to do.
And the context here makes it even crazier because Detroit was losing. They were down 13 points when that horn malfunctioned. Usually a massive delay like that kills the momentum of the team trying to catch up. It freezes the game. It really should have been a gift for Cleveland to just catch their breath and hold that lead.
That is the conventional wisdom. If you're the road team up 13 and the game stops, you usually love that. It completely takes the home crowd out of it. The energy just gets sucked out of the building. But Detroit completely flipped the script. And this is why I look at this win 1 22-1, 19 in overtime as a legitimate championship DNA moment for this young Pistons team.
How did they manage it differently on the sideline?
Well, I was watching the bench feeds during the delay. The Cavaliers looked visibly annoyed. They were sitting down, towels over their heads, talking to the refs, the Pistons. Monty Williams immediately had them in a huddle. And then they were doing active dynamic stretching on the sideline. They were basically jump roping without the ropes to keep the blood moving. When the game finally restarted, Cleveland came out completely flat, stiff. Detroit came out like they had just taken a shot of adrenaline. They ramped up the ball pressure immediately.
That pressure fueled the comeback. But let's look at the engine of that comeback on the court, Jalen Duren.
Look, the term man amongst boys gets thrown around way too much. But last night, Jalen Duren was a man amongst other very large men, and he still treated them like boys.
33 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks. And let's be very clear, this was not against some small ball lineup. This was against Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, two of the premier defensive bigs in the entire league.
That's the crucial context. If he does this against a team playing a 6'7" center, fine. But Jarrett Allen is an elite rim protector. Mobley is a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And Duren physically displaced them. There's this concept called wedge rebounding, where you carve out space early and seal your man under the rim. Duren had 8 wedge rebounds last night.
That's insane.
It really is. He was catching the ball so deep in the paint that Cleveland literally couldn't jump without fouling him.
And the paint points reflect exactly that. Detroit had 68, Cleveland had 56. That plus 12 advantage is basically just Duren eating in the lane.
Right, and it changes the entire geometry of the game. Because he was so dominant inside, Cleveland had to collapse. You saw Mobley hesitating to rotate out to shooters because he was terrified of leaving Duren alone on the glass. That hesitation is exactly what opened up the floor for Cade Cunningham.
Let's talk about Cade for a second. 25 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and he played 44 minutes.
He was the ultimate conductor, and I just loved his pace last night.
Yeah.
We talk about the horn incident disrupting rhythm, right? Cade never lost his. He plays at this incredibly unique, methodical speed anyway. He never lets anyone rush him. In the fourth quarter and in overtime when things got chaotic, he was the one slowing it down, getting Duren the ball in his spots, and hitting those massive mid-range pull-ups when the defense sagged.
On the Cleveland side, look, they fought. Jarrett Allen had 25 and 9. Evan Mobley had 23, 12, and 4 blocks. They definitely didn't just roll over. But I got to play the cynic here. Cleveland blew a 13-point lead after an 18-minute break that really should have helped them. Is this just a tough loss, or is this a bad loss?
It's a highly concerning loss, not just because of the blown lead, but because of the physical attrition.
Yeah.
We really have to talk about Evan Mobley at the end of that game.
Yeah, he was grimacing quite a bit.
He was limping very noticeably in overtime. We already know James Harden is out, confirmed fractured right thumb. He's gone until early March. We know Donovan Mitchell wasn't active, so you are riding Mobley right into the ground. He played 42 minutes last night. If he picked up a soft tissue injury or aggravated something because of that weird stop and start delay, that is catastrophic for them.
It really is. Cleveland is sitting at 37 and 24. They are the 4th seed. But the East is tight. If Mobley misses 2 hits, they could drop to 6th or 7th in a blink. They absolutely do not have the depth to survive without him and Harden.
That's the scary part. Their rotation last night was basically 7 guys that the coaching staff trusted. When you're playing a 7-man rotation in late February and you get dragged into overtime, you're playing with fire. Cleveland got burned last night.
Let's pivot out west, where we had another overtime game, another #1 seed, and another massive storyline. The Oklahoma City Thunder taking down the Denver Nuggets 127-121.
This was the game I had circled all week. The narrative weight here was just huge. You have the defending champs, well, former champs, but the team everyone still respects in Denver. And you have this young juggernaut in OKC, and of course, the return of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Let's just start right there. SGA returns from injury, hasn't played in weeks, and he casually drops 36 points.
It was clinical, just a clinical performance.
Did you see any rust at all?
Zero, none. And this is what separates Shai from almost every other elite scorer in the league. His game isn't predicated on explosive, fast-twitch athleticism that needs tuning up. He isn't relying on a 40-inch vertical. His game is entirely about rhythm, angles, and deceleration. And those things don't just vanish when you sit out for 2 weeks.
It felt like he stabilized them instantly. We've praised OKC's depth while he was out. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, everyone was stepping up. But there were definitely moments in the last few weeks where their crunch time offense looked a little too democratic. Like a little too much of, wait, who's actually supposed to take the shot?
Exactly. Offense by committee is great for 43 minutes. It is terrible for the last 5 minutes of a close game. Last night in overtime, there was no committee. It was a complete dictatorship. Shai had the ball. He got to his spot at the elbow. He pump faked. He leaned in, he scored. It calms everyone else down. You could physically see Chet Holmgren just relax, knowing he didn't have to create a shot out of thin air. He could just focus on defense and spacing the floor.
Speaking of defense and intensity, this game got incredibly spicy. Lou Dort got ejected.
It wouldn't be an OKC-Denver game without Lou Dort annoying someone to the point of literal combustion.
Is this becoming the best rivalry in the West right now? Because it feels like there is very genuine bad blood brewing here.
I really think it is. And it's such a fascinating stylistic clash. Denver wants to bully you. They are massive. Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., they're giants. They want to play half-court, smash-mouth basketball. OKC is the exact opposite. They are swarming piranhas. They might be smaller at certain spots, but they are faster, they are longer, and they just do not stop coming at you. Lou Dort is the physical embodiment of that. He got under their skin, tempers flared, he gets tossed. But honestly, I think that ejection actually helped OKC. It lit a fire under the rest of the roster.
It definitely galvanized the home crowd. But looking at the standings now, OKC is 46-15. They have a full 2-game lead over the Spurs. They are really separating themselves at the top. Denver, on the other hand, they fall to 37-23, sitting in that 4th spot.
And that 4th spot is incredibly dangerous. You are staring down a first-round series against Minnesota, or maybe the Lakers if they put together a surge. Denver absolutely does not want to be in a dogfight for the 4 seed. They want the 2 or the 3. But right now, they just look a half step slow compared to OKC. The depth disparity was glaring last night. When OKC goes to their bench, the energy level stays the exact same or even goes up. When Denver goes to the bench, you're holding your breath.
Let's move to the games that weren't close, the blowouts, because sometimes a 30-point blowout tells you way more than a 1-point game. And we have to talk about what happened in Boston.
I am still trying to understand the math on this one.
The Boston Celtics, 148. The Brooklyn Nets, 111, 148 in regulation.
You know how hard it is to score 148 points in an NBA game without overtime? That is a pace of over 3 points per minute for every single minute of the game.
And they shot 66% from the field. 66%.
That is the truly insane number. 66% is what you shoot in an empty gym during warm-ups when you're feeling really good. To do that against professional defenders, even if it is the Brooklyn Nets, is just absurd. And it wasn't just one guy getting inexplicably hot. It was completely systemic.
So explain that to me, because people see 66% and they naturally think, oh, they just made a bunch of tough contested shots. Was it shot-making luck or was it the actual quality of the shot?
It was absolutely the quality of the shots. I went back and watched the possessions in the second quarter where they really broke the game wide open. They consistently turned down good shots to get great shots. It was drive, kick, swing, swing, pump fake, drive again, dump off for a layup. They were generating wide open looks at the rim or completely uncontested corner threes. When you are taking practice shots, you are going to shoot practice percentages.
Jaylen Brown had 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. That 9 assist number really stands out to me.
It just shows the total evolution of his game. He isn't just a pure scorer anymore. He's actively reading the floor. But the guy who actually unlocks this historic efficiency, it's Nikola Vucevic.
Vucevic had 28 points as well.
And it's the specific way he gets them. He drags the opposing center entirely out of the paint. If you're Brooklyn and Nick Claxton has to step all the way out to guard Vucevic at the three-point line, there is zero rim protection left. That completely opens up the runway for Brown and Tatum when he plays to just glide to the rim. It's pick your poison. And last night, Brooklyn apparently decided to just drink all the poison.
Here is the craziest stat of the night from our research team. With this one single game, Boston gained .01 on Denver for the NBA lead in offensive rating.
Which sounds tiny, but in late February, moving your entire season-long average by a whole decimal point requires a statistical outlier of massive, massive proportions. This was an offensive explosion that we rarely ever see in this league. Boston is now 39-20. They're 5.5 games back of Detroit, so the 1 seed might be a little out of reach, but this is a massive warning shot to the rest of the East.
Yeah.
They're basically saying, we can score 150 whenever we feel like it.
Let's quickly touch on the other blowouts from last night. The Knicks absolutely destroyed the Bucks, 127-98.
Can we just go ahead and call time of death on the Milwaukee Bucks season?
You're calling it right now?
I'm calling it. They are 26-32. They're well under 500. They got completely run out of their own gym by the Knicks. Jalen Brunson had 27. OG Anunoby had 24. The Knicks just look so hungry. They look incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And Milwaukee they look old. They look totally disconnected from each other. There's no joy in how they play anymore. They're just going through the motions, waiting for mid-April.
And finally, the who is that guy game of the night. Memphis beats Dallas 24 to 105. Memphis was missing Ja Morant. They didn't have Zach Edey, no Brendan Clark, no Kyle Anderson.
And they still bro out Dallas. That is the ultimate indictment of the Mavericks.
Cam Spencer, kill a Cam.
I love this kid. 25 points, 9 of 16 shooting, plus 10 in the box score.
For the listeners who don't know Cam Spencer's game, give us the quick scouting report. Why was he able to completely dominate an NBA game last night?
He is the quintessential knows how to play guy.
Sure.
He isn't the fastest guy on the floor. He definitely isn't the biggest, but he literally never stops moving. He is relentless coming off screens. He's incredibly annoying on defense. He always gets his hands in the passing lanes, and he can just shoot the lights out. When you have a system like Memphis has, which is perfectly designed to just plug smart guys in and let them play fast, guys like Spencer thrive.
But the flip side of that is Dallas. They lose to essentially the Memphis Hustle G League team. They fall to 21-38. They're sitting at 12th in the West.
It's totally over for them, too. Any realistic hope of a top 6 seed is dead and buried. Now they're just looking at the play-in tournament, and honestly, looking at how they played last night, absolutely zero defensive effort, zero cohesion. I don't even think they make the play-in. I think they're going to slide right into the lottery.
It's a brutal reality check for a team that has that much offensive talent. But that's the Western Conference right now. If you don't defend, you die.
It's as simple as that.
Okay, let's take a breath. That was all the action on the court. But honestly, the biggest news of the last 24 hours happened in a press release.
It usually does in this league.
Let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers.
Let's get into it.
Yesterday, the Lakers announced a complete top-to-bottom overhaul of their front office strategy. And the thing that everyone is reacting to online is that they are officially adopting the Dodgers model. Now, for the listeners who don't really follow baseball, the LA Dodgers are basically the gold standard of modern sports management. They have unlimited money, sure, but they also have the best player development and the absolute smartest analytics department in the sport. They routinely find guys off the scrap heap and turn them into all-stars. The Lakers are saying, we want that. They're investing heavily in proprietary scouting algorithms and deep-tier analytics. And their very first big hire is Tony Bennett, the former Virginia college coach, as a draft advisor.
This is just fascinating to me on so many different levels.
I gotta be the skeptic here, though, because this sounds like corporate buzzword soup, proprietary algorithms, synergy. Is this actually a viable strategy, or is this just an owner trying to sound really smart to a fan base that is furious about being the 6th seed?
I think that's a completely fair question. And there is a very fundamental problem with just declaring, hey, we're going to be the Dodgers now. Baseball is a game of static events. A pitcher throws a ball, a batter swings. It is discrete, isolated data. You can measure spin rate, exit velocity, and launch angle absolutely perfectly. It's a math problem. Basketball is jazz. It's totally fluid. It is 10 people moving constantly in reaction to each other. You cannot quantify defensive rotation IQ as easily as you can quantify fastball velocity.
So you think the algorithm stuff is just smoke and mirrors?
I think it's significantly harder to implement than they realize. However, the Tony Bennett hire suggests they aren't just blindly looking at spreadsheets.
Tell me more about the Tony Bennett angle. Why hire a college coach who is historically famous for playing very slow, methodical, frankly boring basketball to help the Showtime Lakers?
Because the Showtime Lakers currently have the worst defensive rating in the entire NBA. They can score with anyone, but they cannot stop a nosebleed. Tony Bennett is the absolute architect of the pack line defense.
Define the pack line for us.
Okay, so imagine an invisible arc about 16 feet from the basket. Inside that line, you have all 5 of your defenders. The goal isn't to pressure the ball handler out at half court. The goal is to build an impenetrable wall. You deny all driving lanes. You force the other team to shoot heavily contested jump shots over the top of your defense. It requires incredible, obsessive discipline. You have to be in the exact right spot on every single possession.
And the Lakers right now
Are completely all over the place. They gamble for steals constantly. They miss standard rotations. They just rely on Anthony Davis to act as a free safety and erase all their mistakes at the rim.
So the idea here is that Bennett helps them find players in the draft who naturally fit that disciplined mindset.
It's exactly. The Dodgers model isn't just about using computers. It's about identifying a specific market inefficiency and exploiting it ruthlessly. The Dodgers realized years ago that pitch framing was massively undervalued, so they went out and got catchers who were elite at it. The Lakers are realizing that raw defensive discipline is severely undervalued in the NBA draft. Everyone wants the athletic freak who can jump out of the gym but doesn't know how to rotate. Bennett is there to help them find the guy who maybe only has a 30-inch vertical, but who never, ever misses a weak side rotation.
So they are effectively trying to moneyball defensive IQ.
That is the charitable reading of it, yes.
Yeah.
They're trying to find the next Draymond Green, the next Marcus Smart, the next Alex Caruso, guys who heavily impact winning without ever needing to touch the ball.
It definitely feels like a pivot born out of pure desperation, though. They're 34-24. They're a good team, but they're looking up at OKC and the Spurs and realizing we simply cannot beat them playing their game.
You have to innovate or you die in this league. If they just keep trying to out-talent everyone, they're going to lose. This is them trying to find any possible edge. Whether it actually works, we probably won't know for 2 or 3 years, but at the very least, they're trying something structurally different.
Let's look at some teams making immediate moves right now. The buyout market. The trade deadline is long gone. This is the shopping at the dollar store portion of the NBA season.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Let's start with the surprise cut. The Phoenix Suns waived Cole Anthony.
Yeah, this one definitely raised some eyebrows around the league. Cole is a very talented scorer. He can easily get you 15 points off the bench on any given night. But for Phoenix, this was entirely about fit and finances. They are deep, deep into the tax. And Cole is a bucket getter, but if his shot isn't falling, he really doesn't give you much else. He's small, and he gets actively targeted on defense. In a playoff series, you cannot have a guy on the floor who the other team hunts on every single possession.
Who do you think picks him up?
I'm hearing significant rumblings about the Knicks or the Warriors. The Warriors make a ton of sense, especially with Steph Curry banged up right now. They desperately need someone who can self-create a shot when the motion offense breaks down. The Knicks are interesting. Thibs loves guards who aggressively attack the rim, but he absolutely despises guards who don't defend. So that might be a massive culture clash.
The Spurs made a depth move. They signed Mason Plumlee.
This is the most San Antonio Spurs move ever. Mason Plumlee is just a highly solid, completely unflashy veteran. He's a fantastic passer for a big man. And why do they need him? Because when Victor Wembanyama goes to the bench, the Spurs offense sometimes just falls right off a cliff. Plumlee can act as an offensive hub at the high post. Yeah. He keeps the ball moving. He isn't going to win you a playoff game, but he definitely won't lose you one either.
And then we had a reunion up north. The Minnesota Timberwolves signed Kyle Anderson. Slow-mo is back.
I love this. I absolutely love this pickup for them.
Why is it such a good fit?
Because Minnesota is in a very weird spot mentally. They are 37-23. They're fighting hard for the 5th seed. They have a ton of raw talent, but they sometimes lack adults in the room during high-pressure moments. They get frantic. Kyle Anderson is the literal antidote to frantic. He plays at his own pace, which is historically laughably slow, but he never makes mental mistakes. He's just a calming presence. He defends multiple positions. He already knows the coach. He already knows the defensive system perfectly.
But it's basically a comfort food signing.
It is. And in the playoffs, that level of comfort matters so much. Trust matters. The coaching staff knows exactly what they're getting with Slow-mo every time he steps on the floor.
All right, before we move to the preview for tomorrow's games, we have to do the grim work, the injury report. The war of attrition is getting very real.
Is picking up serious speed as we head into March.
James Harden. We touched on it with Cleveland earlier, but let's confirm the exact details. Fractured right thumb, out through early March.
That is at least 3 to 4 weeks. And look, he's left-handed, but you gather the ball with both hands. You defend with both hands. This puts immense, immediate pressure on Darius Garland. Garland basically has to be an all-NBA level player every single night now, and it puts a ton of pressure on the coaching staff to artificially manufacture offense. Harden isn't just a player, he is a system unto himself. Without him, Cleveland has to reinvent their entire offensive flow on the fly.
Keegan Murray for the Sacramento Kings. Severe ankle sprain, out at least 2 weeks.
The Kings are 14-47. They are dead last, 15th in the West.
So is this just shut him down for the season time?
Oh, absolutely. There's zero reason to rush him back from this. This is the classic developmental ankle sprain. Let him rest, let the end-of-bench guys get some run, and just secure those lottery odds. It's sad to see, but the Kings' season has been functionally over for months.
And Norman Powell for the Miami Heat. Groin injury, out 1 week.
That really hurts them. Miami is 31-29, sitting at 8th in the East. They are right in the thick of the play-in mix. Powell is their primary spark plug off the bench. He provides instant, reliable offense. Without him, their spacing gets incredibly cramped. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo desperately need shooters around them to operate. Losing Powell makes the half-court shrink significantly.
Okay, let's look forward. It is Saturday, February 28th. We have 5 games on the slate tonight.
Very much a quality over quantity night.
The headline game is on ABC at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The Los Angeles Lakers hosting the Golden State Warriors.
A total classic rivalry.
But with a massive twist tonight. No Stephen Curry. He is sidelined.
Which obviously takes a lot of the mainstream shine off the marquee, but tactically it actually makes it a fascinating watch.
Right. The context here. Warriors are 31-28, 8th in the West. Lakers are 34-24, sitting in 6th. This is a game with massive, massive seeding implications.
It really is. If the Lakers genuinely want to catch the top 4, they have to win games like this at home. If the Warriors want to avoid the terrifying 9-10 single elimination play-in game, they have to steal games on the road.
How does Golden State actually function without Steph against this specific Lakers team?
They have to move constantly. Without Steph's gravitational pull on the defense, they can't rely on their simple split actions. They have to cut, screen, and move the ball side to side rapidly to tire out the Lakers' defense. And remember what we just talked about. The Lakers currently have the worst defensive rating in the league. Even without Steph, Golden State can definitely score on them if they execute their sets. Guys like Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga, they can easily get downhill and get buckets if the Lakers fall asleep off the ball.
On the other side, the Lakers. With all this front office noise happening this week, the Dodgers model, the Tony Bennett hire, do the players actually care about that stuff?
I think they absolutely do. Players hear the noise. They scroll the same feeds we do. They know the organization is fundamentally unhappy with the current product. A big win tonight on national TV quiets that noise for a few days. A loss, especially a loss to a Stephless Warriors team at home. The panic meter instantly goes to 11. Watch Anthony Davis tonight. He needs to completely dominate the paint. Golden State really has no one who can physically match up with him if he decides to just be aggressively selfish.
Before that game, at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, we have the Houston Rockets versus the Miami Heat.
This is my personal tactical nerd game of the day.
Why this one?
Because it is a total clash of basketball philosophies. The Rockets, who are 37-21, number 3 in the West, they want to run. They want to play incredibly fast, shoot a ton of threes in transition, and turn the game into a track meet. The Heat, sitting at 8th in the East, they want to turn the game into a literal wrestling match. They want to muddy the waters, slow the pace to a crawl, play aggressive zone, and just make you completely uncomfortable for 48 minutes.
So who wins that battle of wills tonight?
Usually, elite offense beats elite defense in the regular season. But without Norman Powell, Miami severely lacks firepower to keep up. If Houston gets a quick 10-point lead in the first quarter, I genuinely don't know if Miami has the offensive horses to mount a comeback. But if Miami manages to keep it muddy and close going into the fourth quarter, you just never bet against Eric Spoelstra in a tight game.
We also have Portland taking on Charlotte at 1:00 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, the battle of the 500s. Both teams are sitting at 29-31.
It sounds kind of boring on paper, but these teams are fighting for their absolute lives in the play-in race right now.
Exactly. Every single win matters enormously for them. Charlotte is slightly favored at home, but they are missing Liam McNeely. Portland might be. Without Donovan Clingan, they're monitoring an illness there. It's going to be an absolute grinder of a game. Honestly, you could just flip a coin. But definitely keep an eye on the LaMelo Ball versus Scoot Henderson matchup. That point guard battle is always highly entertaining.
And finally, the nightcap. The New Orleans Pelicans versus the Utah Jazz at 9:03 p.m.
The Tank Commander Ball.
Both teams are sitting well under a .310 winning percentage.
This is a pure evaluation game. If you are a diehard fan of these teams, you are strictly watching for the rookies. You are watching to see if a two-way contract guy pops off the screen. You certainly aren't watching for the final score. Just enjoy the individual highlight plays and go to bed early.
So look, we've looked at the standings today. We've looked at the historic blowouts. We've looked at the Lakers trying to apply baseball math to basketball. What is the grand takeaway from all of this for you?
I've been thinking about this specific word all morning. Bifurcation.
Bifurcation.
The league is actively splitting into two entirely distinct species right now. On one side, you have these historic, terrifying offenses, like Boston dropping 148, totally focused on math, efficiency, and maximizing shooting. On the exact opposite side, you have the physical, swarming defensive juggernauts like Detroit and the KC teams that just want to beat you up physically, dominate the glass, and play with relentless speed.
And what happens to everyone in the middle?
The middle is rapidly vanishing. The middle class of the NBA teams like Milwaukee, Dallas, and maybe even the Lakers, right now they're getting completely crushed. If you do not have a truly elite, defined identity, if you are just sort of okay at everything, you are getting blown out by 30 points on a random Friday in February. You are losing your spot in the hierarchy.
It's sink or swim time.
Exactly. The trade deadline is gone. The cavalry isn't coming to save you unless you consider Mason Plumlee the cavalry. You either lean completely into who you are as a team, or you get run over by the teams that do. We're seeing exactly who the real contenders are right now, and the gap between them and the pretenders is just getting wider and wider every single night.
But the middle class is vanishing. I mean, that is a deeply terrifying thought for about 15 fan bases listening right now.
It absolutely should be. They should be terrified.
Well, we will be back tomorrow to recap that Lakers-Warriors game and see if the Dodgers model actually translates to a win or if Golden State can pull off the road upset without Chef Curry. I highly encourage you guys to keep watching those efficiency numbers because the game is fundamentally changing right before our eyes. We'll be keeping track of all of it for you. Thanks for spending part of your Saturday with us, and thanks for listening to our deep dive.
Talk to you guys tomorrow.